Welcome back to Story Time. We have a book for my super dog nerds. I'm obsessed with this book. It's The Biology of Dogs by Tim Lewis, PhD, from gonads through guts to ganglia. Some pretty dense information here. It's from 2020, so it's rather new. Table of contents includes dogs and humans, the reproductive system, digestive system, diet and feeding your dog, musculoskeletal, circulatory, external fortifications, internal defenses. I mean, it's a good book. It's dense. I'm going to read from Tour 12, Biology and Behavior, our messiest tour. Can one override genetically driven behaviors? Buckle up. The canine brain can, with training, learn to control hormonal and other instinctive programmed responses. Most responses. Some responses. To what extent? Both dogs and humans are influenced by hormonal drives. Both have brains that are complex enough to learn when it is okay and when it is not okay to follow the chemically induced behavior. Hunger, the drive to eat, is driven by the hormone ghrelin, produced in the stomach. Without training, a dog responds to the hunger drive hormone by eating. Place food in front of a hungry, untrained dog and it will eat. Now, with gusto. With training, even a hungry dog can learn to ignore the hunger drive and wait for permission to eat. Which is really in control, the brain or the hormones? Wait long enough, such as starvation conditions, and the hormone will override the brain, but in normal circumstances, the brain can control most hormones, at least for a time. At least it seems so now. This works on other hormonal drives. I teach college students. I make it very clear that hormones do not ever excuse behavior, be it hunger, aggression, or sex. Hormones influence, but with training, most can be controlled. Maybe all. There are clearly some individuals who, even with the training they get, cannot control hormone-induced behaviors. Could they with better training? Hormones influence dog aggression. How much? Can it be controlled? We need a quick timeout on vocabulary here. To an evolutionary ecologist, material in the brain, thoughts, induced actions, etc., are either innate, genetically based, or learned, or some interactive combination of the two. You are either born with it in your genes, or you learn it from the outside, or you figure it out inside. Training is the act of directing that learning as opposed to self-discovery. Based on corrections offered to my talks, I would surmise that in much of the dog training world, the terms are not used in this way at all. Training generally seems to be used to refer to taking a neutral or non-existent action and getting more of it. Behavior modification is an approach used on existing behaviors to get them to stop or change. I am absolutely certain I am being too simplistic, but I am not interested in explaining training or behavior modification as the dog training world knows them. There are a bazillion books on that, and it seems scores of operating paradigms. My experience is that many biological scientists have difficulty talking to trainers and behavior scientists about training because they have different terms with different nuances. These are often driven by the school of thought or methodological paradigm they use. Not good, not bad, not unique to this field, just is. We often lump behaviors irrespective of what their source is. For example, I frequently hear talks about how to train dogs out of fear, aggression, depression, or lack of attention span without distinguishing if those come from genetics, are learned from past situations, or are caused by disease or poor nutrition. So if I ask if you can control my dog's fear aggression, the answer probably depends on the cause. To really test that, I need a controlled experiment for each cause, treatment, and variation in breed and age. And hard facts are hard to get here. The word control I just used as another problem. I am asking a basically biological question. If a dog has genetically influenced behaviors, how much of these can be attenuated or amplified through environmental, non-genetic means? Which is stronger, learning, broadly defined, or genetics? Does brain disease override both? We also need to note as we venture into this space that the science-based answer on this is difficult and imprecise. Just one example. I hypothesize that all genetically influenced behaviors always can be overridden. Say, any aggression can be trained out of a dog. That is logically impossible to test. I would have to test all dogs at all levels of aggression. Any dog not trained out of aggression could be blamed on the training, my use of the word training here. But you can easily do the opposite. I hypothesize that no dog can be trained away from aggressive acts. With a bit of effort, you could easily prove that statement wrong. Always, in this example, is impossible to prove because you cannot try all training or behavior modifications on all dogs, especially if your measure of success is aggression against humans. There is a pretty hefty ethical problem with experiments that put live humans at risk. In addition, while aggression is a prime problem in dog behaviors, I care as much about OCD, pursuit instincts, fear, depression, and hunger. That is enough paragraphs of this for today. This book is so dense, so good. Highly recommend. Please check it out. Another dog-wise classic. Hello and welcome back to Storytime. We are working our way through a series of Dogwise books that Erica from Dogwise sent us. They're great. If you don't know, Dogwise is, I think, the largest publisher of canine-specific literature, training manuals, behavior science, all that good stuff. So today we are going to be looking at Discover the World of Canine Cognition by Pat Miller. Revolutionize your dog's training and provide access to the brain candy all dogs crave. And if you know me or have been following me for a while, you know that I am a huge proponent of doggy and kitty brain candy. Let's keep them thinking. Let's engage them in as many ways as possible. And for me, it's play. It's something to do with my animal companions that helps us connect and keeps us engaged in a really positive way. So we're going straight to chapter 3 here. Cognition, agency, and consent, when no means no. Cognition, from the Latin cognitio, meaning knowledge, perception, trial, is defined as mental processes that include knowing, thinking, learning, memory, knowledge formation, reasoning, problem solving, judging, decision making, comprehension, grasping and applying concepts, theory of mind, and production of language through thought and the senses. Obviously, we have known for a long time that our dogs are capable of learning and remembering. Otherwise, any training would have been an impossible task. But the more complex cognitive functions were long considered to be well beyond our dog's abilities. Not anymore. A decade ago, you would likely not have heard the words canine and cognition in the same sentence. Today, as scientific interest in canine cognition has sparked, there are canine cognition laboratories all over the world. I'm going to take a quick break to see when this was published. Oh, 2026. Amazing. So this is brand spanking new information for you. Pat Miller then lists a bunch of canine cognition labs. There's the Horowitz Dog Cognition Lab at Barnard College, the Duke Canine Cognition Center at Yale, Boston College Canine Cognition Center, Transylvania University Pioneering Pups Canine Cognition Lab, Brown University Dog Lab, Arizona Canine Cognition Center, and there are websites. There's so many more, and there are websites for all of these as well. If you're interested in going to any of them, oftentimes you can sign up for studies there, which is really, really cool. And we, of course, have the Comparative Cognition Lab at UCSD, always running studies. Back to the book. Many of these institutions offer citizen science canine cognition programs that you can get involved in with your dog, some in person and some online programs. Dr. Brian Hare's Cognition Center at Duke University was among the first to do this with his own Dognition program, which is now available online. You can check out the resources listed in the sidebar above to find a cognition lab near you if you want to dive deeper into a specific exploration of your dog's amazing cognitive powers. Agency, choice, and control. We now accept dogs and other species as sentient creatures and complex thinkers. As we have come to understand that dogs can do far more than just respond to cues such as sit, down, and come, we are also realizing that we have a greater responsibility to respect their wishes whenever it is possible to do so. This means giving them agency, defined as the feeling of control over actions and their consequences. It means, to the extent possible, letting them make their own choices in their lives. The wonderful Dr. Susan G. Friedman, PhD, is Professor Emeritus in the Department of Psychology at Utah State University. You can find her at www.behaviorworks.org. She has co-authored chapters on behavior change in 5 veterinary texts, teaches seminars and courses on animal learning online, how behavior works, living and learning with animals, and consults with zoos and animal organizations around the world. My all-time favorite Dr. Friedman quote is, "The power to control one's own outcomes is essential to behavioral health." Think about that. Our dogs have very little opportunity for choice in their lives in today's world. We tell them when to eat, when they can play, when and where to urinate and defecate, what to chew on, when and where to sleep. We expect them to walk politely on leash without exploring the rich and fascinating world around them, and we want them to lie quietly on the floor for much of the day. Compare this to the lives dogs used to live, running around the farm, chasing squirrels and bunnies at will, eating and rolling in deer, cow, and horse poop, chewing on sticks, digging in the mud, swimming in the pond, following the tractor, etc. There's a good likelihood that this lack of choice is at least partly responsible for the increasing amounts of stress, arousal, reactivity, and aggression we are seeing in many of our canine companions these days. Imagine how stressed you would be if your life was as tightly controlled as your dog's. The more choice and agency we can offer them, the healthier they will be mentally, and the better our quality of life together. One simple way to give your dog more choices in his life is to take him for a sniffari instead of a regimented walk. I recall seeing a great cartoon where a dog is marching in perfect heel position down the sidewalk next to his human, looking sad and bored. The thought bubble over the dog's head says, "Whose walk is this anyway?" What if, instead, you let your dog control the walk, as long as he isn't dragging you down the sidewalk? If he wants to stop and sniff, let him. He'll tell you when he's ready to move on. Use a non-retractable long line, a 20 to 50-foot leash that allows him to really explore his world. When you walk in the park, let him decide which way to go as he follows bunny trails through the grass. You never know what he might find. I recall one such walk with my Kelpie Kai. He put his nose to the ground and zigzagged back and forth for several minutes, clearly following a trail of some sort. After several minutes of tracking, he finally stopped, nose to nose with an eastern box turtle. Of course, there are times when you need your dog to follow your walking agenda. For those occasions, I have a different cue. For my dogs, the old standby heel still means I need you to walk right by my left side, while let's walk means we're going on a sniffari. Some people even use a different leash or collar harness to let the dog know it's a formal walk versus sniff time. And yes, these are cognitive concepts that the dog can recognize and understand the meaning of the different cues and pieces of equipment. It's just Bunny getting some scritches, Bubba. Another option for agency for your dog is to simply give him off-leash opportunities where he can run and sniff to his heart's content. If his off-leash recall is reliable and he is dog-friendly, kudos to you. There may be areas of large, open, dog-friendly acreage in your community where you can take him. If his recall isn't all that great, there may be fenced-in dog parks. But beware, unless they are well-run, dog parks can be fraught with hazards for your dog. Sadly, there are far too many people who will bring dogs to these parks that aren't suitable for group interactions and walk around texting on their phones rather than paying attention to their dogs. If you need an enclosed area and your own yard is small, or you don't have one, or you just want to give your dog additional adventures, there's a company called Sniff Spot that contracts with local property owners, it's all over the United States, to rent out their spaces to dogs and their humans, yards, acreage, trails, some fenced, some not, at an hourly rate. Rates vary depending on the host. You can look for a sniff spot near you. Let's take a deeper dive into how you can give your dog choice and consent and all the other fascinating aspects of canine cognition. While you read on, start making a life list for your dog of all the different ways you can give him opportunities for choice and agency, and then start putting them into practice. I love this book for a number of different reasons. I'm going to talk about some of the other chapters in here, some of the other things that goes on to talk more about what is cognition, then cognition and training, shape, color, object discrimination, match to sample, nose, brain, candy games, reading, writing, arithmetic, and painting, copy that. So all of these really complex cognitive tasks that until recently we sort of had no idea that dogs were even capable of. And I, of course, I don't think it's included in here, but I would include buttons in that, right? There are so many things that so many learners across the world have been able to communicate to their human guardians that we wouldn't have been able to know in any other way. The most profound moments like that have been the ones where our learners can self-advocate for their own health. They can request medicine. They can tell us when and where they're in pain with great specificity. And just the act of us engaging in this way around buttons is it's a cognition game. It's us playing and scaffolding our learning upon itself and creating conceptual frameworks that work for us regardless of how they would function outside of our dyadic relationship. So I would definitely recommend this book. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Subscribe.